Investor case file 001. The $4,200 mistake that took 3 days. Every case starts with a phone call. This one came on a Thursday afternoon. Investor on the other end. Calm at first. Then I heard exactly what was happening. And I recognized that sound immediately, that emotion immediately. Not because it was unusual, but that's because I've seen this exact situation time and time again. Actually, more times than I can count. 2 years of doing exactly everything you thought was right, then one move out, $4,200 gone. It wasn't stolen, not a lawsuit, not wiped out by a natural disaster. It was gone because of a deadline that a self-managing landlord didn't know existed, and an inspection that no one told him about. This is case file 001, and I'm Darius Harper, a licensed property manager and the owner of Real Property Management, Marble City, here in East Tennessee. Every case on this channel comes from real situations. The names have been changed to protect the innocent or the less fortunate. Timelines, dollar figures, exactly as the files show them. What this case is going to show you is the timeline Tenancy starts running the moment your tenant moves out, and the inspection that is required, and what happens when you miss those deadlines. Before we work the scene, you need to understand who we're dealing with. For privacy purposes, we're calling him Marcus. He's 34 years old, works in logistics, bought his first investment property here in Knoxville 3 years ago, a 3 bedrooms, single family home, mortgage locked in at a 3% rate while they were still reasonable. When the market shifted and the home values jumped up, Marcus made the smart call most accidental investors miss. He kept the property. He rented it out instead of selling. He self-managed, downloaded a lease template from a reputable website. He ran a background check on the tenant, collected $2,400 in security deposit, and for 2 full years, the property ran clean. Had a good tenant, young professional couple, rent was on time every single month, 0 maintenance emergencies. Marcus barely thought about that property. Here's what I need you to understand about Marcus though. Before we opened the scene, he had mastered the smooth part of a tenancy. Every landlord can manage when nothing goes wrong. Marcus was about to find out exactly how prepared he was. Month 23. The couple told Marcus that they were buying their own home. 30 days notice, cooperative, they cleaned, they handed the keys back on a Wednesday afternoon. Marcus drove over that evening conducting his walkthrough. The living room, carpet wear, scuff on the baseboard, normal. Kitchen, few scratches on the floor. One cabinet slightly off alignment, normal. Then Marcus reached the master bathroom. Water damage spreading from the sink base up the vanity wall. This had been sitting unreported for months, quietly, steadily getting worse. He pressed his hand against the wood edge of the cabinet and it was soft. The structure was compromised. He estimated around $1,800 in repairs. He actually took photos, started itemized deduction lists. He called 2 contractors for quotes. If you were watching Marcus work that evening, you'd think, hey, this investor is prepared. He has documentation, he has evidence, he has a real good case. But here's where the investigation reveals its first problem. The contractors were busy, so the first quote came back in 4 days, and the second quote, well, it took a week. Marcus was traveling for work, a client project that ran longer than expected. He told himself he'd send the deduction letter this week, then next week. He wasn't trying to take anything that didn't belong to him or wasn't justified. He just needed the final numbers in hand before he could send it over. On a Thursday morning, Marcus sat down at his kitchen table. He opened his laptop, got his photos, his quotes, his itemized list, had it all in order. He drafted a deduction email to the tenants, felt like he had it organized, and then he hit send. Point was, it was day 33, 3 days after the deadline Tennessee law has set. A deadline that Marcus had never been told existed. His lease didn't mention it, the website he got it from didn't mention it, and he never heard of Tennessee code annotated 66-28-301, but the tenants had. This is the moment most self-managing landlords in Knox County never see coming, because the clock doesn't start when you decide it does. It doesn't start when the contractor quote finally arrives. It starts the moment your tenant moves out, and it doesn't wait for anything. But there's a second problem in this file, one Marcus doesn't know, and it's about to turn this case from a missed deadline into a complete evidentiary collapse. Here's the evidence. When we pulled the file on this case, 2 statutes controlled the outcome. The first one is the Tennessee Code annotated 66-28-301, the security deposit statute, the one that governs every move out. Here's what the statute establishes. The hard deadline when a tenant vacates, the the landlord has exactly 30 days. And that's 30 days to either return the full deposit or send a written itemized statement of every deduction with the reason for each one. And the clock starts on the move out day, not when the quotes come in and not when you get back from traveling on your vacation. Move out day. That's what we have to remember. Missing that window by 1 day, Tennessee law has one response. The landlord forfeits all legal rights to retain any portion of that deposit, not the disputed amount, not the portion that isn't documented, but every single dollar goes back to the tenant, regardless of what damage was actually occurred or happened on that property. Marcus sent his letter on day 33. That was strike one. But the second statute is what collapsed the case entirely. TCA 66-28-301B, the mutual inspection requirement. When I work a move out, this is protocol, non-negotiable. Tennessee law gives the tenants the right to be present at a formal walkthrough inspection. The landlord must provide written notice of that. The inspection must occur on move-out day or within 4 calendar days after. Marcus walked through that property alone on a Wednesday evening. No tenant present, no notification given, and no signature collected. Therefore, and this is the critical finding, every piece of documentation Marcus gathered that evening lost its legal standing. The photos, the contractor quotes, the itemized list, and none of it could be presented as valid evidence in court because the process that gives documentation its legal weight in Tennessee had never been executed. The tenants filed a formal complaint citing TCA 66-28-301. The evidence was reviewed in General Sessions Court, a letter sent out on day 33, the mutual inspection was not completed, documentation with no legal standing. Marcus sat in that courtroom with a folder full of evidence, 2 years of doing everything correctly. The judge ordered the full return of that $2,400 security deposit to the tenants. Marcus still owed the bathroom repair, regardless of what the court had decided. Case file 001, final damage assessment, $2,400. Returned to the tenant, then $1,800 in repair, so a total of $4,200. 3 days late, 1 inspection, never completed. On a property managed correctly for 730 consecutive days before this moment. Here's how this case gets prevented before it opens. The moment a tenant submits a notice to vacate, the 30-day clock gets logged in our system. Day 1, not when it's convenient, on day 1. The formal pre-move out inspection gets scheduled with the tenant present, documented, signed. The final walkthrough occurs within 4 days of vacancy. The itemized deduction letter goes out with a full photo documentation attached before day 30. Every single time without exception. Every lease at Real Property Management Marble City is drafted by a Tennessee licensed attorney, not pulled from a website, written specifically for Tennessee court, with clauses covering security deposits, procedures, inspection rights, and deduction documentation, built by someone who argues these cases for us. Marcus didn't lose $4,200 because he was a bad landlord. He lost it because real estate investing requires a system that runs even when life is running faster than you are. He was just simply unprepared. So if you're managing a rental property here in East Tennessee and you want to know whether your process would hold up, click the link below. We'll go through your current setup. We'll show exactly where the exposure is, because in Tennessee, the law doesn't care why you were late. It only cares that you were late.